Halloween is just around the corner.
You don't even have a costume! Yes, I do. I'm Megan Kelly. Now trick or treat!
Aside from pumpkins and candies, Halloween seems to be a much more festive celebration when ghosts, aliens, and psychopathic killers also join in on the fun.
I didn't realize that everybody here dresses up every year.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to Screen Lab, a taste of your favorites. Today, we will be giving you 10 Halloween movies that are not for the faint-hearted. Stay tuned, as a Tim Burton sleeper hit will also be making an appearance on this list. So, let's get to it.
Let me come in.
Number 1. Us, 2019.
I'm serious, man!
When you have two of Hollywood's brightest talents coming together in a horror film, then you know it's gonna be good. Lupita Nyong'o has been on a roll since her Oscar win in 2003's 12 Years a Slave.
Day in, day out!
Starring in numerous blockbusters such as Star Wars, The Force Awakens,
I am no Jedi, but I know the Force.
The Jungle Book,
We are the only family he's ever known.
and Black Panther. Jordan Peele, on the other hand, has had his own mean streak as well, winning an Oscar for Get Out and also producing the critically acclaimed Black Klansman. After the critical and commercial success with Get Out, Peele gives us another horror show in Us. And, just like his previous outing, he again presents some great metaphors that had audiences talking for a very long time. The movie follows Nyong'o's Adelaide Wilson and her family as they go on a beach vacation. But the trip turns into an instant nightmare as the Wilsons get attacked by what seems to be cloned versions of themselves. One of which is Adelaide's doppelganger named Red. As the Wilsons fend off their homicidal clones, it is revealed that there are actually more clones called the Tethered, living underground, all making their way to the surface to take over the country. Much like Get Out, Us is a story that deals with political and social issues. In a 2019 interview, Peele specifically mentioned that the film tackles America's misplaced fear of outsiders, and that fear may not come from those outsiders, but actually from themselves.
What the shadows doing was so sharp and cold.
Number 2. The Conjuring, 2013.
She's standing in front of my mom's bed.
No movie in the past decade has invoked more terror and sleepless nights than 2013's The Conjuring. Directed by James Wan, the guy behind one of the most popular horror franchises of all time, Saw. The Conjuring definitely deserves a spot on our list. The movie follows the story of ghost hunters Lorraine and Ed Warren, portrayed by Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson, as they attempt to solve the mysterious events occurring inside the Perron household. We soon learn that the parents are living inside haunted premises, with the house being owned previously to a witch named Bathsheba Sherman, who had killed herself after sacrificing her child to the devil. Bathsheba would constantly terrorize audiences throughout the movie, most notably in the scene where she attacks Andrea, and of course, that infamous laundry scene. Just like Saw, the massive success of The Conjuring resulted in the film being turned into a whole franchise, launching numerous sequels and spin-offs that have and will continue to scare audiences well into the 2020s.
And now you're all gonna die.
Number 3. Paranormal Activity, 2007. The king of found footage horror films, Paranormal Activity was an instant phenomenon when it was released in 2007, proving that a horror film doesn't need to have a huge budget for it to shock audiences down to their core.
Oh my gosh.
Unlike most films in the genre, Paranormal Activity portrays ghosts like no other, utilizing cameras to record ghostly activities happening inside the household. The end result is a film that isn't only scary, but also leaves audiences in a state of dread due to the scenes being filmed from a single perspective. Although the common horror tropes are there, slamming doors, flickering lights, loud thumps, it's a film that perfectly captures the true essence of jump scares.
What the fuck is that?
And is proof that ghosts can attack at any moment, especially when you provoke them. And if you thought it couldn't get even scarier, the last scene still gives us the jitters up to this day. Number 4. It, 2017. Clowns are now apparently banned at children's parties for at least the next 10 years.
It's the clown! Let's hurt him!
It, directed by Andres Muschietti, tells the story of 7 teenagers as they fight a horrifying evil that takes the form of a clown. The film is also based on a 1986 Stephen King novel of the same name. Much like the other villains we have on this list, the movie's main antagonist, Pennywise, portrayed masterfully by Bill Skarsgård, has become one of the most iconic characters in horror cinema.
Where you going, Ed?
Aside from his grotesque and sinister features, Pennywise also kills his victims in the worst possible way, making him an A-list horror baddie. From the deadlight scene, where Pennywise opens his huge, disgusting mouth, paralyzing his victims before consuming them, to the scene where Ben gets chased by a headless man inside a library. It never holds back in giving audiences some heart-pounding jump scares as well as some ultra-gory moments. And if there's one scene that will make us hate clowns forever, it's definitely poor Georgie getting devoured after getting his arm ripped off. Number 5. Sleepy Hollow, 1999. Hollywood's oddball duo has produced some great films over the decades. Edward Scissorhands, Ed Wood, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and Sweeney Todd, the demon barber of Fleet Street. Thankfully, one horror film was developed out of their partnership, and although it won't be considered as the best horror film anytime soon, Sleepy Hollow is one of those hidden gems that will make you literally scream your head off once you get the chance to watch it. Sleepy Hollow is set in 18th century New York City and follows the story of police constable Ichabod Crane.
Who's there?
Portrayed by Johnny Depp, as he is tasked to solve a series of brutal decapitations in a small town called Sleepy Hollow. We soon discover that the murders are being committed by a headless horseman acting on orders from a witch named Mary Van Tassel, portrayed by Miranda Richardson.
The horseman comes! And tonight he comes for you!
As expected from a Tim Burton film, Sleepy Hollow is all sorts of weird and crazy, but it is a highly entertaining film nonetheless. Just make sure to keep your distance whenever you see a person riding a horse at full speed.
Taken by the headless horseman.
Make sure to watch until the end of the video as we give you the Halloween movie that will make you rethink your plans of getting into the Elon Musk space shuttle, because in space, no one can hear you scream. Number 6. Halloween 1978. A Halloween list that doesn't include 1978's Halloween is like eating a hamburger that doesn't have any bun. John Carpenter's Halloween is essentially the movie that started it all for the modern slasher genre, and introduced us to one of cinema's most iconic villains, Mike Myers. No, not that Michael Myers.
Yeah, baby!
Originally made with a minuscule budget, Halloween became an overnight success upon its release in 1978. The film didn't only do well commercially, but also launched the career of young Jamie Lee Curtis. The film also introduced a number of tropes that would define the slasher genre as it is today. One of which is the concept of a final girl, which pertains to one female character surviving the movie as everyone around her dies, while also subduing the movie's main villain. In this case, Curtis's character, Laurie Strode, defeating Michael Myers. Another trope would be the over-sexualization of young adults, which leads to them getting picked off one by the villain, and mostly getting stabbed by a huge knife. Number 7. Kairo 2001. When it comes to Halloween movies that are not for the faint of heart, look no further than Japanese horror films. Ever since the release of Ringu in 1999, J-horror had become a worldwide phenomenon. A girl crawling out of a television screen was already scary enough, but it was only the tip of the iceberg for the films that soon followed. One of which is the 2001 Kiyoshi Kurosawa directed film, Kairo. The film, which is translated to Pulse for English audiences, revolves around the story of ghosts taking over the world via the internet. From ghosts standing behind persons as they use their computers, to distorted phone calls reaching out for help. Kairo is a J-horror film that is absolutely terrifying. And even if it was already released 2 decades ago, the idea of ghosts and the internet coexisting together is something no one wants to encounter in real life. No doubt, Kairo is a highly recommended film. But if you haven't seen the film yet and you're planning to watch it on your next day off, take our advice. Leave the lights on and never ever turn your back while using your computer past midnight. Number 8. The Shining, 1981.
Here's Johnny.
Despite getting mixed reviews upon its release, including director Stanley Kubrick receiving a Worst Director nomination in the first ever Razzies, The Shining eventually gained a cult following. It wasn't long before the film became one of the most loved horror films of all time, with even a majority calling it the greatest horror film ever made. And when it comes to some truly great acting in any horror film ever, Jack Nicholson and Shelley Duvall's performances, who plays on-screen couple Jack and Wendy Torrance, ranks among the best of them.
As soon as possible! As soon as possible!
Much like other horror flicks that don't rely too much on jump scares, The Shining is in the same vein, showcasing drawn-out scenes of dread and portraying characters that seem to descend further into insanity as the movie progresses. The level of terror is also increased tenfold as we don't only deal with Jack's psychotic tendencies, but also witness some truly terrifying ghosts. Jack, chasing a horror-filled Wendy with an axe,
Wendy, I'm home.
is as unsettling as young Danny seeing the ghosts of murdered twins in the hallway. Don't even get us started on room 237 and that disgusting bear scene. If you're wondering if The Shining ever got a sequel, look no further than 2019's Dr. Sleep, starring Ewan McGregor and Rebecca Ferguson, which follows the story of the now adult Danny as he seeks to destroy the demons that have haunted him since he was a child.
Come and play with us, Daddy.
Number 9. A Nightmare on Elm Street, 1984.
Save me from
The 1970s didn't only witness the birth of the sci-fi horror genre, but the birth of the horror slasher genre as well. Halloween and Friday the 13th paved the way for a new generation of horror flicks. And the villains of the two films, Michael Myers and Jason Voorhees, became the faces of the horror genre for the next decade. Unfortunately, nothing kills a franchise faster than poorly done sequels that follow the same plot. By 1984, 3 Halloween films and 3 Friday the 13th films had been released, with each film getting progressively worse than the last. The release of A Nightmare on Elm Street, directed by horror legend Wes Craven, manages to bring something new to the table. An uglier and more sadistic immortal psychopath who kills his victims in their sleep. The film is ridiculously entertaining as it is horrifyingly brutal, and also introduced audiences to the burnt-faced, fedora-wearing, and claw-wielding Freddy Krueger. There is no denying that Michael Myers and Jason Voorhees have racked up some impressive skills over the years, but when it comes to sadistic creativity, Freddy Krueger definitely has a major advantage.
No running in the hallway.
And number 10, Alien, 1979. With movies such as The Man Who Fell to Earth, A Clockwork Orange, and of course, Star Wars, all becoming big hits, it was now evident that moviegoers would line up for any film that involved robots, aliens, and space travel. And after the release of James Cameron's Alien in 1979, it's safe to say that fans didn't only get what they wanted in a futuristic space film, but also got a film that gave them some horrifying shivers. Although Alien is hardly the first sci-fi flick that incorporated some horror elements, it's the first film that made it work. And center of all terror, the gigantic, flesh-eating, acid-spitting, and wall-climbing xenomorph. The movie follows a space crew led by Ellen Ripley, portrayed by Sigourney Weaver, in one of her most iconic roles, as they attend to a distress signal in a nearby moon. Immediately after arriving, the crew encounters all sorts of problems, most specifically Kane, who doesn't only has an alien get stuck in his face for days, but also having a baby xenomorph burst through his chest while eating dinner. Fun fact, the shocked reactions of the crew during the chest burster scene was apparently real. In a recent interview, Weaver mentioned that although Kane's death was detailed in the script, the cast wasn't prepared for the convincing practical effects as well as John Hurt's amazing performance, in which Weaver thought the British actor was dying for real. Even with multiple sequels and spin-offs, the first film is still considered the best in the franchise.
You know that?
Right.
Not only winning multiple Oscars, but also laying the groundwork for future sci-fi horror films such as Event Horizon, Cloverfield, and Annihilation.
Signing off.
So, there you have it. Which of the films on this list have you watched that almost made you faint? Leave something for us in the comments section below. If you like this video, make sure to watch the 5 reasons why Nurse Ratched is the most terrifying villain. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you love watching movies with great scares, click the share button as well. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.